Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to FoundFlix. Jamie here, and today we're talking about Alien Resurrection, what many people consider to be the weakest link in the original Alien franchise, and why I think it deserves a little bit more appreciation than it's been previously given. I know what you're thinking already. Alien Resurrection? Are you kidding me? That movie sucks. Why the fuck do we care? Guys, you know what? Aliens is one of my all-time favorite horror films. I grew up with it as a child from age 6. Thanks, Mom, and can quote every line. As an avid sci-fi horror fan who has had this discussion numerous times with fellow nerds, I'm prepared to persuade you to my side, which is that, while flawed, Resurrection shouldn't be discounted as a worthy and, most importantly, truly unique addition to the franchise. And before you guys get all out of sorts, remember that movie Prometheus? Yeah, it sucked. Way worse than this one. And how about the Alien vs. Predator movies? Yep. This is way better. So what's the big deal? Why don't people like this film? So first, let's talk about some of the issues in pre-production. The first version of the script did not actually include Ripley, and Whedon was told to go back to the drawing board as she was a necessity. He struggled with recreating her character after her suicide at the end of Part 3, and ultimately arrived at the decision that the only thing that could possibly make any sense was a clone. Both Whedon and Weaver have discussed the challenges of creating a new Ripley, one that was inherently, in essence, Ripley, but also an entirely new form. A clone, and mixed with alien DNA. Most of the complaints I've heard about Resurrection are in regard to Joss Whedon's script. Whedon says they didn't so much change his script, but it was more about misinterpreting it in the execution. The real failure of this film to being well received was in that core conflict between Junet's French quirky direction and Whedon's script. In theory, the concept of their styles jiving seems great, but in execution, many felt, not so much. I disagree though. Maybe that's because I'm a French cinephile. I think, despite whatever Whedon's original vision, Junet brought to life a dark, gory science fiction tale with some great acting, interesting characters, and overall a good continuation of the series, albeit one with a little more cheese than we were anticipating. But Jean-Pierre stated from the get-go that his intent with the film was to do something entirely different than the previous three, to create a dark comedy. And with that, we have to take a little cheese with our acid blood, failed clone experimentations, and xenomorphs. That's really the main viewing consideration missing in most people's appreciation of the film. It's supposed to be a little silly. Yes, we're not used to that with the previously super serial vibe of the franchise, but that doesn't mean it's not enjoyable. Those crazy French folk, how dare they have a sense of humor about xenomorphs? His main objectives were, as mentioned previously, to bring something entirely different to the franchise, but also to stay true to the original tone. The dirt, the grime, the darkness that lends itself to the first Alien, as well as to the artistic contributions of H.R. Giger, which have been such a significant element to the series. And hey, Giger himself thought Resurrection was excellent. When Junet was first brought on board, he'd never before directed an English-language film, let alone an American one. He's said to have treated Resurrection as a commercial for the Alien franchise, which again is a symptom of the French to Hollywood transition. Indie artsy French director takes on hopeful Hollywood blockbuster. What did y'all expect? It's inherently going to be dramatically different than what we've seen before. He'd never worked on a film this size and recruited his entire regular production crew with him overseas. His art director, cinematographer, and many others. Again, we see how this would greatly impact his vision of the film over Whedon's script. After all that, I think we can see that Resurrection is a very novel and unique entry in the Alien saga for a number of reasons. Now let's break down my top 7 favorite elements of this film to try and give it some cred, okay? Number 1, the cast. Do you know who Winona Ryder is? Yeah. She's pretty awesome. I think we all agree she's amazing, and every one of us has had a little crush on her that has blossomed like a seedling into an enchanted flower, especially thanks to Stranger Things over our lives. Ryder plays an android named Call, and it's really cool. Continuing in the vein of Bishop, she turns out to be a helpful android companion, unlike the shady Ash. What I love most about Ryder's character is that she's unquestionably the most human android to date. She naturally expresses emotions and empathy in a way neither Bishop nor Ash did, although of course no one can replace Bishop. But she's an android designed by other androids not akin to authority. She doesn't like being told what to do. We also have Ron Perlman and Dominique Pignon, whom we've loved in Junet's previous films. Perlman plays ape-like primitive crew member Genre, with Pignon as Vries, a sympathetic handicap in love with Call. We've also got Dan Hedaya as General Perez, Who didn't love Quantum Leap growing up? It's Hal! As well as Michael Wincott, our delectable twisted master villain from The Crow, Brad Dourif as a creepy scientist, and Leland Orser, our unforgettable S&M victim from Seven. And when it comes to Ripley, Resurrection is, in all honesty, the most badass form of Ripley since saving Newt at the end of Part 2 and flinging herself into the fire at the end of Part 3. Part alien, part human clone Ripley in this version is pretty intense and equipped with a fine leather bodysuit. Can you throw a basketball backwards into a hoop shot? Is acid blood running through your veins? Are your nails perfectly manicured and matching your outfit when you come out of the clone machine? I didn't think so. How is that not awesome? But Jamie, why is there a dumb basketball in Alien Resurrection to begin with? That scene is pointless. No, it's not. Because this Ripley is a pimp, and Sigourney actually performed that impressive behind-the-back shot. Discussion over. Number 2, clone Ripley rules. If I was Weaver, I wouldn't have batted an eye at accepting this role, and I'm sure the $11 million paycheck helped a little bit too. This Ripley also has less shits to give and isn't going to put up with any crap. She still has this maternal instinct akin to her in the protection of Newt in Part 2, but the combined alien DNA also gives her a primal, animalistic, and almost erotic nature. She's powerful, sensual, and vulnerable at the same time. I'm honestly impressed with Sigourney Weaver's portrayal of realizing these opposing sides of her identity and playing them off so well. Newborn Ripley has to relearn all of her people skills, language, communication, movement, etc. Turns out she's not very good at these things, or is she just too good? She's never before been so under the control of the company. Weaver stated that the end of Alien 3 felt like a release for the character of Ripley, a way to finally escape it all. And now the motherfuckers have brought her back against her own will as a rat in their own laboratory. She's not even important, it's the aliens they care most about, so this Ripley truly has to fend for herself and everyone else, knowing that her recreation has consequences for the entire universe. It would be so easy to say, screw everyone, let's just die. But she's, as always, ready for the fight and kicking ass all the way to Hong Kong. Or somewhere. In space. Yeah. I just referenced Robin. This is another testament to the legacy of the super amazing Ripley. Even as a clone, she's doing her best to protect the one she cares about. This Ripley is 100% badass and equipped with alien DNA that gives her acid blood, superhuman strength, and a bizarre psychological connection to the alien colony. It really doesn't get any cooler than that. Number 3. The failed clones. Thank you, Joss Whedon, for including the clone factor. Without that, we wouldn't have had super badass Ripley, nor the horrifying results behind laboratory door I-7. And Sigourney Weaver pointed to this particular scene in the script that got her on board with the movie. Gross out factor engaged, we have some pretty messed up stuff happening here. When Ripley walks through the room, we feel an emotional connection as she experiences the atrocities that came before her, almost realized but deformed and mutilated. And there's still one alive, a body collapsing on itself, hooked up to IVs, begging to be killed. And Ripley obliges. It's fucking disgusting. We feel a sense of vengeance when Ripley destroys it, pain in the death, but release from the torture. What does this new Ripley feel for the first time, witnessing all the previous iterations of herself not completed? But when scientist Freeman objects to Ripley's dismay, Call punches him in the face because she's awesome. Number 4, Ripley and Call are a kick-ass team. Female power. The bond between Ripley and Call is awesome. Call originally breaks into Ripley's cell to kill her, but it doesn't end as planned. Ripley is perhaps too powerful for Call, and what she's really after is the aliens. They share an intimate scene in which Ripley confesses that she doesn't truly know what she is anymore, and though she could easily kill Call, she spares her. Later, Call says they can't trust Ripley because of her connection to the aliens. It's this challenge that calls Ripley to her humane element and gives her a purpose.
It's like killing your own kind.
It was in my way.
Gradually, both Call and Ripley grow to see each other as equals, artificial representations of a human form. This reinvents that Ripley-Newt connection in which Ripley plays a motherly role to Call. It gives both of them a humane quality focused on the greater good and their desire to protect those around them. After the underwater sequence, Call miraculously appears unharmed and Ripley can spot it a mile away. Deep down in her circuitry, she wants to help others survive. It's Ripley who encourages Call to destroy the ship before it reaches Earth and to change the course of the ship, saving the planet in the process. It's important to note here that Ripley talks about Newt, a girl who had bad dreams. Ripley says she tried to save people like Call, but it didn't turn out well. But despite their initial hostility, after Call is revealed as an android, Ripley defends Call to the others, seeing that same maternal instinct they both share. Number 5, the sweet slaughter. There are plenty of superb gore moments in Resurrection, including Ripley handed a ripped-out alien tongue to Call as a souvenir. Let's not forget that the purpose of Elgin's delivery was to provide human bodies, one of which is Orsor Purvis, as breeding grounds for the pods. Imagine being kidnapped only to wake up and find yourself face-to-face with a, well, face hugger, bitches, when you think your day can't get any worse. I also love Dorif's teasing of the aliens by trying to train them as though they were a household pet or military animal. Come on, we all know how this will end. While it would be awesome to mount a xenomorph and ride into battle in eternal glory, we all know this is unlikely and your steed would eat you and everyone else. Man, why isn't there a xenomorph mount in WoW? But I do love how the intelligence of the xenomorph is displayed by learning its environment so quickly. And ruthless as ever, they don't hesitate to kill one of their own kind to escape. That's fucking smart. And we've never seen them do this before or since. Those crafty alien bastards. And when a soldier ventures into the cell, you're on ice, bitch. Alien zaps you with the red button just like was done to them. Gotta say we root for the aliens a bit there. Poor Hal, I mean Perez, gets skull blasted with alien mouth and then pulls his own brain out from behind his head. Jesus. We've also got ricocheting bullet into a skull, aliens diving into an escape pod with massive blood and gut flinging ensuing, a skull being bitten into, and the water scene. You know what? Speaking of the water sequence, I believe it deserves its own spot. It's so gorgeously filmed, it truly terrified me when I watched it. God, what a gorgeous scene. Even the harshest detractor can agree it was pretty damn sweet. Whoever thought of an alien swimming? Only the French. But where do we pop up on the other side? Right into the breeding grounds, chock full of ready-to-burst eggs, of course. Everyone is prey to a face-hugger, including Ripley, but luckily they're able to launch some grenades to destroy the pods in a massive explosion, alien bits flying everywhere. When we think everyone isn't going to make it, Johnner does a backbend with guns exploding to save the day. Well, that one guy does sacrifice himself. He's dead. But the best part, when Johnner straightens up, there's a spider right there. So he blasts that spider motherfucker to bits too. He knows what's up. Number 7, the motherfucking newborn. Ripley is embraced by the alien horde. It's kind of weird and kind of amazing. As Guideman Dorif states, Ripley's gift is the human reproductive system. One of my favorite moments of Resurrection is witnessing the baby's birth. We don't know what to expect, and it blows our minds that instead of following suit with the other xenomorphs, it kills the queen, fucking brutal, and instead seems to favor Ripley. Ripley is both terrified and transfixed. Is this its human DNA overpowering its animalistic xenomorph nature? A desire to be close to mother rather than a creature who hatched it from a pod? What we think will be a glorious birth turns into Guideman's head being bit into. Oh, the blood. Then they're trying to escape, but where is the newborn? Turns out on the ship, and bloodshed ensues. And you gotta love that sensual moment when Ripley runs her hand over its teeth and bleeds. Yeah, it's your baby, but bitch, it's gonna kill you. But Ripley is able to control it. When she tells it to release Call, it obeys, and Ripley uses her acid blood to break a window and suck baby out into space. Ripley's face, as well as that of the alien during this scene, are haunting. Tragic. There's a real connection between the two of them, even if it is really, really weird. But somehow Ripley and Call make it back to Earth. And the special edition ends with Ripley and Call looking out over a deserted France/Earth. There's an Eiffel Tower in view.
What should we do? I don't know. I'm a stranger here myself.
I would have loved a continuation of this storyline, as it does seem to point the series story into a whole new direction. And perhaps part of the disappointment in the movie is that the ending does feel like a letdown because we don't see where things will go next. But on its own, Resurrection is a very unique entry in the Alien series, and one that doesn't deserve the harsh treatment it's gotten over the years. It's fun. They're aliens. And Sigourney Weaver. So much gore! And while we won't see the storyline continue, some elements seem mildly transported to the current entries, with Michael Fassbender's android David being an integral character. And he definitely has his own ideas about how to deal with humans. Rather than protect them, he wants to poison them with goo and see what happens. By the way, could we get some Ryder Fassbender action in a new Alien film, please? David versus Call, come on. Who's not down with that? What did you guys think of Resurrection? Did this make you reconsider your interpretation or at least convince you to give it another watch? And what are you most looking forward to with Covenant? I mean, the Xenomorph's probably that and Danny McBride. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and thanks for watching.